What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Tuesday, March 23rd. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 6-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the point guard position. I like Damian Lillard from the Portland Trailblazers playing the Brooklyn Nets, who have the 13th worst defense overall, and they've been pretty good versus opposing point guards, but Damian Lillard has averaged 47.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 36 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. He scored 29, 43, and 36 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 29, 34, and 37 minutes. So he hasn't been playing all that well as of late, has not hit the 50-point marker in the past 3 games, but he scored a 68 and a 50 in the 2 games before that. So he's projected at 47.2 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 9,400 FanDuel salary and 600 more on DraftKings. Now I think he can score 50 fantasy points or more here tonight and get you 5 times value or more, because he scored 69, 70, 59, 40, and 55 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Brooklyn Nets. So that's excellent player versus team history. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 236.5 points scored in this game. So I like Damian Lillard here versus the Brooklyn Nets. Another point guard that I like, especially on DraftKings, is Jamal Murray from the Denver Nuggets playing the Orlando Magic, who have the 6th worst defense overall, and they give up the absolute most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Jamal Murray has averaged 35.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 25% usage rate. He scored 39, 49, and 41 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 34, 42, and 28 minutes. So he's been on fire. Now he's only projected at 35.6 fantasy points here tonight, but I think he can score 38 fantasy points or more and get you 5 times value or more. He's 7,800 FanDuel salary, but he's 700 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. On DraftKings, that's going to be 5 times value or more, even if he only hits his season average. So I like Jamal Murray, who scored 40, 31, 50, and 36 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Orlando Magic. It's a great matchup. Vegas thinks there's going to be 216 points scored in this game. So I like Jamal Murray here versus the Orlando Magic. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Tyler Hero from the Miami Heat playing the Phoenix Suns, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing shooting guards. But Tyler Hero has averaged 28 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 24% usage rate. He scored 25, 27, and 21 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 36, 28, and 25 minutes. He's projected at 27.3 fantasy points here tonight. I think he can get 30 fantasy points or more in this one. That's already, even if he only scores 27.3 in the projected points, that's already 5.2 times value on FanDuel, because he's 5,200 FanDuel salary and he's 500 more on DraftKings. So he scored 48 and 23 fantasy points in his last 2 games versus the Suns. Vegas thinks there's going to be 217 points scored in this game. I think he makes a nice mid-range play, especially on FanDuel. So I like Tyler Hero here versus the Phoenix Suns.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $100 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won, and then we'll send you $100 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, here's a value play for you. I like Nikhil Alexander-Walker from the New Orleans Pelicans playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, and they give up the 11th most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. Nikhil Alexander-Walker, he's averaged 17.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 18 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. But take a look at his last 3 games. He scored 33, 20, and 31 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 30, 19, and 24 minutes. He's projected at 19 fantasy points here tonight, but I think we can bump that projection up to 24 or so fantasy points, which would be pretty much right around 5 times value on FanDuel, because he's $4,900 FanDuel salary, but he's $500 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. Probably a DraftKings play only for me. I would play Nikhil Alexander-Walker on DraftKings, and I would play Tyler Hero on FanDuel. Now, Vegas thinks there's going to be 223 points scored in this game, so I like Nikhil Alexander-Walker, especially on DraftKings here versus the LA Lakers. Okay, who do we have at the small forward position? I like RJ Barrett from the New York Knicks playing the Washington Wizards, who have the absolute worst defense overall, and they give up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. RJ Barrett has averaged 29.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 24% usage rate. He scored 34, 27, and 34 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 39, 41, and 40 minutes. So he's playing monster minutes. He's projected at 31.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's $6,200 FanDuel salary, and he's he's 400 more on DraftKings. So this is a great matchup, a fast-paced game. Vegas thinks there's going to be 226 points scored in this game, so I like RJ Barrett here versus the Washington Wizards. Okay, another small forward that I like is Kelly Oubre Jr. from the Golden State Warriors playing the Philadelphia 76ers, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing small forwards, but Kelly Oubre Jr. has averaged 28.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. He scored 27, 18, and 28 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 28, 28, and 35 minutes. He's projected at 28.2 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's $5,600 FanDuel salary and 600 more on DraftKings. So Vegas thinks there's going to be 222.5 points scored in this game. I think you got to get a piece of this Golden State Warrior team with Steph Curry still out, and this is a low-cost way to do it. So I like Kelly Oubre Jr. here versus the Philadelphia 76ers. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. I'm going to give you a value play here. I like Nicholas Claxton from the Brooklyn Nets playing the Portland Trailblazers, who have the 8th worst defense overall, and they give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Nicholas Claxton has averaged 22.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 18 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. But he scored 30, 21, and 28 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 26, 22, and 22 minutes. He's projected at 24.1 fantasy points here tonight, and on FanDuel, that's 5.2 times value. He's 4,600 FanDuel salary, but he's 700 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 236.5 points scored in this game. It's a great matchup, a fast-paced game, a super high-scoring game. So I like the idea on DraftKings of playing Nicholas Claxton for value at only 3,900 DraftKings salary. And that allows you to fit Damian Lillard into your lineup. So I like Nicholas Claxton here versus the Portland Trailblazers.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, here's another value play. I like Paul Millsap from the Denver Nuggets playing the Orlando Magic, who have the 6th worst defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing power forwards. Paul Millsap has averaged 21.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 24 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He scored 15, 12, and 30 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 29, 17, and 20 minutes. Now he's projected at 21.5 fantasy points here tonight, and even on FanDuel, that's 4.9 times value. He's 4,400 FanDuel salary, but he's 500 less on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 217.5 points scored in this game, and I like this pick, especially on DraftKings because his salary is so low, and also he scored 30, 23, 29, and 32 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Orlando Magic, so that's excellent player versus team history. So I like Paul Millsap, especially on DraftKings here versus the Orlando Magic. Okay, moving on to the center position. I'm going to give you another value play. I like Alex Len from the Washington Wizards playing the New York Knicks, who have a good defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing centers. Alex Len has scored 37, 16, and 30 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 28, 18, and 23 minutes. He's projected at 20.1 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.8 times value. He's 4,200 FanDuel salary and 300 less on DraftKings. So Vegas thinks there's going to be 226 points scored in this game. So I like Alex Len here versus the New York Knicks. Okay, another center that I like is Steven Adams from the New Orleans Pelicans playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing centers, but Steven Adams has averaged 24.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 13% usage rate. He scored 30, 23, and 14 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 36, 34, and 25 minutes. He's projected at 24.7 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.7 times value. He's 5,300 FanDuel salary and 100 less on DraftKings. So he scored 14, 28, 31, 32, and 13 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Lakers. So 3 out of those 5 games, he would have got you 5 times value or more. And I'm just thinking, with no Anthony Davis and no LeBron James, I think there's going to be a lot of rebounds available for Steven Adams, and Vegas thinks there's going to be 223 points scored in this game. So I like Steven Adams here versus the LA Lakers.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.